Hello to the land of you who are on Facebook and all who will view this on YouTube later. Right now, I have the pleasure of being with Jacquie Phoenix, who is the leader of the Practical Lawful Dissent UK, Canada, and Commonwealth group on Facebook. Hello, Jacquie. How are you doing tonight?
Good, good. How are you?
Fantastic, thank you. And thank you for all that you are doing to and have done to make this information available to really help people understand what's required and why it's required now. And we can't afford to wait for a savior when we are the sovereign beings meant to save ourselves.
Yes, yes. Actually, the government has done really well at trying to hide this information from us. They don't want us to know that we actually have a lawful, peaceful remedy at our fingertips. And it's been there for the past 19 years, ready for us to go. In 2001, I was watching the late night news, and right at the tail end of the newscast, as they were signing off, they said there's an important announcement coming out of England. The Barons Committee have invoked Article 61 of the 1215 Magna Carta. I had no clue what it was. Most Canadians have never even heard the words Magna Carta. Mm-hmm. And it was no different for me. I didn't have the technology at my fingertips like the internet that we have, now. I didn't have a computer or nothing, so whenever I got near a computer, I couldn't remember what it was I wanted to look up, and it slipped my mind. I knew it was important for Canadians because we are a Commonwealth country. We were the first federation of the British Empire, for crying out loud. We've got huge ties to Britain. So as soon as I heard that, I knew it was important. I just didn't know why. And it wasn't until after Trudeau unrolled his globalist agenda and handed us over to the United Nations. A lot of Canadians got very active and anti-political at the time. They started with the Yellow Vest movements. They did the convoy across the country. I was involved with the Yellow Vest protests and whatnot too. And then I found a video on Facebook of a gentleman in the UK using Article 61 of the 1215 Magna Carta to get rid of a solicitor that was at his door demanding money for council tax. In the UK, council tax is very similar to property tax, only everybody has to pay it, not just property owners. So right away, as soon as I heard Article 61 of the 1215 Magna Carta, it was like a little light bulb went off in my head. I know those words. I know they're important to Canada. And that's when I found David Robinson's group, Practical Lawful Dissent. And I knew it was important to get the information to Canadians. Had no clue what I was doing. Green as the day was long. And David took me under his wing and started teaching me so that I could help other Canadians. And that's when he noticed I had interest from other Commonwealth countries throughout the Commonwealth. And he said, okay, well, let's train you for an international push for redress then. So, yeah, we've been getting the numbers up throughout the Commonwealth. There's multiple groups on Facebook. We've got multiple websites now. There's a lady in Australia who's building us our own platform because people want to get away from Facebook. So there's groups on Telegram, Instagram. It's everywhere. It's literally exploding throughout the Commonwealth. And the people are actually getting ready to do our push for redress here soon because the government is pushing their agenda so fast that we really need people involved and active in this. We are the many, they are the few. And for those who don't understand what Article 61 is, Magna Carta 1215 is our forever binding English and Commonwealth Constitution. It actually predates Parliament. So they can't touch it. Only the people can change Magna Carta. via a constitutional convention of the people. Article 61 is the security clause. It protects us from a treasonous regime, which is clearly what we have today. The role of the monarch is actually very important to the way our common law justice system functions. They are there to make sure that unlawful acts and statutes never get presented to the public. The Queen has breached her coronation oath, and treason has been committed. With our common law justice system in place, we the people are actually self-governing. We are in power over government. The people are in power over government. We're self-governing. And that's done via jury nullification in our properly impaneled juries. It's called the rule of law, or the court de jure. Okay? So they're supposed to be properly impaneled jurors in every single courtroom throughout the Commonwealth. And it is the jurors that make the decisions. They're the ones that are doing the judging, and they're the ones that are doing the sentencing. What we see today is not lawful courts. They're listed as foreign corporations. They're there to make money. They're not there to divvy out justice. And our Constitution protects our right to justice. And Magna Carta states that no one is above the law. Not government, not the monarch, no one. We are all equal under the eyes of the law. And some of the politicians will try to say, oh, well, these people think they're above the law and that's what they're doing. No, we don't think that we're above the law. No, we in fact are asserting the rule of law, because no one is above the law, and that includes government. And Canadians can see with Justin Trudeau's actions, he absolutely thinks he is untouchable. And that's because we don't have any lawful courts. Criminals don't punish themselves.
No.
And the courts are nothing but foreign corporations. Oh, what? You're going to walk into McDonald's and ask the CEO to throw your prime minister in jail? It's not going to happen. No. It's not going to happen.
And so speak into the difference between lawful and legal for those who are listening that may not be fully aware of what that important difference is.
They're actually, treason is anything foreign having any say in our laws or governance, okay? Like I said, the people are self-governing under our common law justice system. Only people can create laws. The government is only allowed to create acts and statutes because they're only allowed to repeal acts and statutes. Acts and statutes can never be permanent. Only laws remain in perpetuity, and that's decided by the people via the jury nullification process. Okay? That is our common law justice system. Common law is 4 basic tenets: cause no harm, cause no loss, commit no fraud, and keep the peace. It covers every single aspect of our daily lives. So what the courts, or the fake courts, the corporations, are doing is they're using the Roman Admiral Law of Commerce. And it starts with the fraud against your birth certificate. They've got us all deemed dead, lost at sea. Mm-hmm. And that goes right back to the 1666 Sesquivi Act, where they listed us all as dead, lost at sea. And that's right from your birth certificate. So it's a fraudulent system right from the get-go. They're using foreign laws and in a foreign language known as legalese. They've taken all the English words and changed the meaning of them. Understand no longer means that you know it. It means that you're granting authority. I stand under your authority. You know what I mean? And that's all deception and lies. And our Constitution states that if you move to the country, you have to be 7 generations in before you can even apply for public office. If you look at the way Parliament is set up in Canada right now, 3/4 of them weren't even born in Canada. This is their first generation here, right? So right there, that's high treason. So we need to stand under our security clause with the rest of the Commonwealth, because these foreign laws and foreign regulations, like the United Nations itself, is a completely foreign entity. Our country should not have any involvement with the United Nations, let alone building internment camps so they can force vaccinate our people. Like, these are all crimes against humanity. The government commits 3 out of 4 common law crimes against each and every single one of us every single day before you've even had your morning cup of coffee.
Well, we all feel it. It takes getting bad enough for people to actually be willing to get to do something. And right now, my perception is the cognitive dissonance is so great between the people that are saying that Magna Carta isn't even legit anymore because they replaced it. But speak into that and how this is the original, which means that none of the ones that came after actually have any validity other than being upheld by a treasonous regime that are putting in their own rules and saying,
well, they took out the security clause first thing. In 1216, the very first thing to come out of that was the protection for the people. And if you stop and think about it, in 1216, King Henry was a 9-year-old child. Are you going to trust a 9-year-old child to know what's right for you?
No.
No, he was a puppet.
Mm-hmm.
And right there, they didn't even tell the people that that was being done until centuries later. How is that a valid document? Our Constitution, the 1215 Magna Carta, states not once, not twice, but thrice that it is forever binding. Clauses 1, 61, and 63 clearly state that it is forever binding. And only the people can change Magna Carta via a constitutional convention of the people. We all must have a sovereign say in the Constitution that protects us. Because that's the whole purpose of a constitution. It's there to protect the people. And right away, they started trying to destroy Magna Carta right from the get-go.
Naturally, because the queen is made to seem the sovereign being that we're to revere. But what is a sovereign being?
The queen, it holds the office of sovereign. That's another deception against the people.
Mm-hmm.
There is no royal bloodline or privilege.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is a job title.
Mm-hmm.
And you need somebody with the right qualifications, not the right bloodline. If you needed brain surgery for a loved one, would you go and find a brain surgeon, or would you go down to the local pub and find some guy whose father was a brain surgeon?
Mm-hmm. Precisely. Yeah. It's obvious to anyone that has not been fully brainwashed by the ones who are essentially abusive parents that have turned on their children and said, you can get your toys back after you've been good, which never happens.
Yeah, exactly.
So what does redress mean for those who are saying, okay, all of this is legalese, I don't understand, it's overwhelming, and so I'm just going to move away and go to the familiar comfort zone of what I know, which I know is bad, but if it's not broke, don't fix it. And a lot of people are really in that boat, is what I perceive from interacting with people on the
Well, you can't get much simpler than Article 61. It's one law. It's the only law in effect, because Article 61 is the highest constitutional law ever written. That means it's extremely powerful and extremely effective. Unlike the rest of our constitutional laws, Article 61 has to be invoked by a committee of 25 barons or more. And the reason for that is because Article 61 is such a powerful law that once it was invoked, it deposed the Queen and all of her governments throughout the Commonwealth. That means the Queen was constitutionally dethroned on March 23rd, 2001, and all governments throughout the Commonwealth were dissolved. There is no government. They are criminals posing as government. And as long as people keep running to the polls to vote for these criminals, it's going to keep happening.
Mhm.
So once Article 61 deposed the Queen and all of her governments, Article 61 became the only law in effect throughout the entire Commonwealth realm. So that applies to all Commonwealth and former Commonwealth countries. Because Article 61 also dissolved all treasonous documents.
Mhm.
So even the United States Declaration of Independence is null and void. So it is by royal command that we take the oath and stand under Article 61. Because treason is the worst possible crime that can be committed. It's one thing to see your enemy coming towards the gates. It's a whole nother ball game when they're already in your yard.
Precisely. It's that whole premise that at what point do we stop walking towards the concentration camps and actually say, hey, there's a cliff there. It's like the buffaloes were exterminated because they just kept running, and the cliff ends, and so does their lives. And so
Yeah.
if we don't understand the power of banding together and that we actually do have the power, how do we exercise that power? And once we've exercised the power in the resistance, then what happens after that?
You mean how do we get redress, and what is that?
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's by royal command that we all take the oath and stand under Article 61 because we're defending the realm. There's more of us than there is of them. And Article 61 demands that we reject the treasonous regime. It is unlawful to support the treasonous regime. Even just putting a mask on right now when you walk out the door, you're aiding and abetting criminals.
Mm-hmm.
It's a crime.
Mm-hmm.
So the oath that we take is a document of intent. Because Article 61 is the only law in effect, it makes it simple. You're either obeying the law or you're not. There's no fence sitting on this one. So once we take the oath, we notify them of our lawful standing by starting the 5-notice process on the courts and the police. Okay? And that tells them, look, I'm lawfully standing under Article 61. It has been invoked. You too have a constitutional duty to stand with the people under it and defend the realm. If they do not, then they're guilty of at least sedition, which is to deny the Constitution. And that's a full asset stripping and the gallows under the 1557 Treason Act. So even just denying your Constitution comes at a very, very hefty penalty. Treason, high treason is the same, full asset stripping and the gallows. A misdemeanor under our common law justice system is a full asset stripping and banishment from the kingdom for no less than 7 years. So they're very, very strict penalties. Once we've notified them of our lawful standing, we can use the 5-notice process to hold government agents accountable. If you don't like the current COVID regulations, you go after your health ministers because they're the ones implementing that. You don't like the current curriculum being forced on children in school, you go after the education ministers. You don't like the 5G, you go after the science and technology and infrastructure ministers. You don't like the financial situation of our country, you go after the finance ministers. And you put them all on notice. Article 61 is an unstoppable force. Once it's been invoked, it cannot be revoked. It has been in effect for 19 years already, and it'll remain in effect for another 50 if that's what it takes to get the people redressed. And it's a matter of the people waking up, standing under Article 61, and using it to hold these criminals accountable. We're not going to take it.
And it's personal accountability is really what's being called for.
Oh, yes, it is personal accountability, because I was just doing my job as no defense. You can't just pass the buck. Oh, the Canadian government will be liable. No, you personally are liable. We are all responsible for our own actions, inactions, and omissions. We all have a conscience, and we all can say no.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do not stand up, like if you're in a position, force vaccinating people, if you're a nurse and you're force vaccinating people against your own conscience, well, that makes you personally liable, because you could have stood up and said, no, I'm not doing it.
And the companies themselves have absolutely no liability, which is part of what is so horrendous as to what could come if we don't actually unite and step up and exercise our personal responsibility as not just citizens. It was the Queen whose last...
Not citizens, sovereigns. You
So,
cannot be a sovereign and a citizen.
Perfect. So the difference between a citizen is one who is owned by the corporate identity of the country that we were registered with, who was then made the holder of our trust that we came here with, essentially, my understanding is. And then,
but again, that goes back to the treasonous Sesquiv Act of 1666.
Which came after the... How did the Sesquiv Act of 1666 get passed after this? Because
our last constitutional monarch was Elizabeth I,
and
which was in 1550s.
1550s. That just is that emoticon with the mind blowing up.
Yeah.
How is so with redress? I know you're over in the UK right now, and so what can sovereign beings do in order to exercise our power and actually be part of the change we seek in this world?
Right. Well, the first thing they need to do is to take the oath of Article 61. You have to be standing under the law in order to be protected by the law. And that's the thing. Article 61 is like our umbrella of protection. It protects the people from a treasonous regime. So right there's your first reason to take it. The whole point of redress is to restore the rule of law that puts the people back in power. Common law is natural law. We are all born with an instinctual knowledge of right, wrong, and fairness. We even express it as children. If you give one child 3 cookies and another child 1 cookie, the child with 1 cookie is going to cry and say, that's not fair, right? It's instinctual. Mm-hmm. Natural law and justice are instinctual from birth. And that's basically what common law is. It's natural law. So what exists in nature? People exist in nature, not government. People created government. The government didn't create people. So they are the fiction. Okay? So what happened when Article 61 was invoked? The people dissolved the government that they created. There is no more. We are fighting to restore the rule of law that puts us back in power. And we want to get rid of these criminals in office. We want them held accountable for their crimes. Each person that we put on notice with the 5 notice process will stand trial for treason before a jury of the people at a later date. Article 61 is unstoppable. It will go right up to the point where the people win, because it's only a matter of time. There's more of us than there is of them. Mm-hmm. Eventually, the police will have to do their jobs. Mm-hmm. So we put them on notice. We collect the evidence for trial. We will be asked to submit our evidence to the jury at some point. Towards redress, we do have a plan towards redress. I don't really want to go into it too much here, but we are asking people to make sure that the groundwork is done in their communities. And what do I mean by groundwork? We want the cops, courts, and councils on notice. Once you've got the cops, courts, and local councils on notice, start going after the MPs in Parliament and the government whips, especially the government whips, because they are the worst.
Government whips?
Yes.
What is that? Or who are they?
Oh, you don't know about the parliamentary whip system?
No.
You're going to love doing this research. The government whips. Now, their duties are basically as it sounds. They're whips. So, for example, if you look at the way Parliament is set up, there's a lot of female MPs, are there not?
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of those female MPs are mothers, correct?
Yeah.
Mothers tend to be very angry at the thought of their children being sexualized in school at a very young age with evil curriculum, shall we say. Right? Or the forced vaccination issue, for example. Either one. I know me as a mother, there's no way I would say, yeah, go for it. No. Not. I'd be all against that. There's no way you're putting that curriculum in my child's school. There's no way you're sticking that needle in my child's arms. So how are these evil agendas being passed in Parliament? It's the government whips. That's what their job is, to whip those MPs to vote yes. So, and they'll, by hook or by crook, they'll get a yes. And they make people, they force people to vote against their own consciousness. And that's how agendas like this are being passed in Parliament. Because the people, the good people in there that, oh, I'm going to run for office so I can incite change from the inside. No, you're not. You're going to get into office and you're going to meet the government whip. So yeah, it's the whips that definitely need to go for sure.
So the course of action that's required in order to get the whips out, to get the government officials being held personally responsible, is a 5-step process of mailing out letters. And the first step is signing the oath of the bearer.
Yes, you got to take the oath first, because that changes. The oath is a document of intent. It's our evidence that we are in fact obeying the law. And it also changes our allegiance from the Queen to the Constitution. That's why we no longer have to pay taxes, fines, or fees. It's not that we don't, it's not that we think we're above the law and I don't have to pay my parking ticket because I'm above the law. No, we're not paying that parking ticket because you're criminals, and if I give you my money, then I'm supporting crime. There's a big difference, right? So we conditionally accept their demands. And if they want us to pay taxes, well, we'll conditionally accept it. I'll pay my taxes if you can provide me proof that you have the authority to make that demand, which they don't because the government was dissolved in 2001. Where's your authority? Oh, I got none. Well, all right, goodbye. You know? Or they have to provide proof of authority that Article 61 is no longer in effect. And they can't do that either because the people have not had redress. Our common law justice system has not been restored. The people are still very angry. Justice has not been done. So, yeah, we use the 5-notice process. We hold them accountable. It's simply, if there's a demand, we start with the notice of conditional acceptance. If there's no demand, we start with a lawful objection. The second notice we serve is the default and opportunity to cure. The third notice is a notice of default. The fourth is a notice of coercion to aid and abet high treason and misprision of treason. And then your fifth one is your notice to stop. Every person that we put on notice will stand trial for treason. We always keep a copy of each notice we serve because we will be asked to submit the evidence for trial, and each notice is evidence of the treason being committed. Once we've got all the groundwork done, if people just read Article 61, it tells us exactly what to do. So that'll give them a little bit of a hint as to what's happening for redress. Once you've got the groundwork done for your community, get organized into little groups and be ready for the call to action. Once the call to action comes, you'll be instructed on what to do, and just do it. And it's peaceful, it's lawful. There's no fear of people being arrested or anything like that, because we're using the highest constitutional law ever written. We have nothing to hide, nothing to fear. We're obeying the law. People don't get arrested for obeying the law.
And a lot of the people who have traded everything, including their souls, to be able to get into these positions in the first place, they need to understand that money isn't going to be able to get them out of this.
Oh, no. Money is not going to get them out of this, because that's the thing. They're going to have to stand trial before a jury of the people. This is not walking into a corporation and standing in front of your evil friend sitting in a black robe at the head of the room. It's not going to work that way. Mm-hmm. These are the people of the Commonwealth, and we've been victimized by these criminals, most of us, our whole lives.
And so for the people that are saying, okay, we do that, and then what? We have no government. How do we govern ourselves? For people that might be worried about...
We have always been self-governing under our common law justice system. It's jury nullification. Government is allowed to create acts and statutes because they can only repeal acts and statutes. Maxim law, no parliament shall bind its successor. So acts and statutes can never be permanent, okay? So the way our system is designed to work, Parliament wants to create a piece of legislation. First, it must fall within the confines of our Constitution. That means it can only add protection to the people. It cannot remove protection. So then it is supposed to receive royal assent from a constitutional monarch. Like I said, we haven't had one of those since Elizabeth I. So, but the monarch is supposed to look it over and say, oh, this is unconstitutional. The people aren't even going to see it. Or if they think, okay, this might add protection to the people, we'll see what the people think. And then it's presented to the people in the form of an act or a statute, a rule, if you will, not a law, a rule. And if somebody breaks that rule, they are to face a jury of their peers in a properly convened court of record, court du jour. And that jury has the right and duty to nullify any government act, statute, or legislation that is unconstitutional. So let's say the accused has actually broken legislation, but the jury says, you know what, this doesn't feel comfortable. That sounds like something I would do. It doesn't seem fair to punish them for this. So then they come back with a verdict of jury nullification. What happens then is, because the jury has deemed that piece of legislation as unfair, the process immediately begins to remove that piece of legislation from the statute books. And then it opens up the door for something called common law private prosecution. And that means that any single member of the public can privately prosecute any member of parliament that was involved in creating that piece of legislation. and they can do that free of charge.
So they don't have to pay for a lawyer in order to hold the individuals who are implementing treasonous orders responsible for their choice to uphold
Exactly.
this regime.
So if you look at, for example, the current COVID regulations, the jury would deem this unfair like that.
Mm-hmm.
And every single member of parliament, both provincial and federal, that were involved in passing that could be privately prosecuted by any member of the public.
So in order to move forward, for somebody that is maybe new to this and they're listening and thinking, oh my gosh, I actually have something that I can do. What is that? Where do they go for the information?
They can find us on Facebook. We've got Practical Lawful Dissent, UK, Canada, and Commonwealth. We've got Practical Lawful Dissent Australia, Practical Lawful Dissent UK, Practical Lawful Dissent Wales, Practical Lawful Dissent, I said New Zealand, didn't I?
Nope, but New Zealand.
New Zealand, yes. We've also got practicallawfuldissent.com. There's lots of places to find us.
Okay. And so when I post this video onto YouTube, I'll make sure to post those links so people can find the information who may not be on Facebook, especially with the censorship rules, getting this.
Oh, you can also find us on Telegram, Instagram. We're pretty much everywhere now.
Brilliant. And that's what's required, because people are everywhere. And the ones who are controlling the people are only in select places, feeling above the law. I remember years ago hearing a friend at the gym I worked at saying he vacationed in Florida, and all of the rich, or not all of them, but many of the rich people were building houses and properties out on lands offshore because of how crazy it's going to get when people realize how badly we've been duped.
Yeah. Well, there's another thing too. If people want, they can actually use this process to seize Crown land.
So,
and 89% of Canada is Crown land. If the groundwork is done properly, we could seize the entire country.
Right. And then what is the question I feel like a lot of people have. Once we've done these things or got it, then is it we organize our own governing system?
The only thing that needs to happen is juries in our courthouses. Bang, that is redress. Juries in our courthouses. We need our buildings back.
Right.
They're our buildings. We own them. They have usurped our courts, and they're using foreign laws in our courts.
Right.
That is high treason.
Yes.
Criminals out, people in, done. Game over. Fixed.
With the United States, obviously that's a separate beast, but how, I'm sure that there will be
actually it's not a separate beast, because like I said, their Declaration of Independence is a treasonous document. The Americans are Canadian again.
As of 2000.
As of March 23rd, 2001.
So that's going to be a head shaker for a lot of people attached to the corporate identity they've grown up with. There are a lot of people that are going to really just not even know what to do when all of this happens. And part of bringing all of this information and the other things that I've been doing is really just trying to help support people and give us tools to not only practically exercise the the law that we have to practically execute that one law to be able to then step into our power and deal with this?
It's very simple. You can't get much simpler than Article 61. It's a simple 5-notice process. We've got all the templates. They're valid throughout the entire Commonwealth. They're just fill in the blanks, put in the names, the addresses, keep a copy for yourself, send the original via registered mail, keep your postal receipt tracking number, staple those to your copies, file them away for the jury. We also have tools that can aid people. Like, you don't need to register your vehicles. Under our common law system, we have a right to travel. And you can even see that on the very first page of your passport. It says we are allowed to travel unhindered. So we don't have to pay for stuff like that. Registration is for commercial vehicles only. So in your private capacity, you don't need a driver's license. You don't need registration. So we've got right to travel stickers that you can have printed off and put on your car. We also have the constitutional caution card that people can carry with them. And when they're encountered with police or other government agents, you just pull out your cell phone and start recording, and you recite the constitutional caution card. 9 times out of 10, they'll back away because, and it's really simple. The constitutional caution card says something along the lines of, I must caution you, I stand lawfully under Article 61 of the 1215 Magna Carta, which was invoked according to constitutional protocol on March 23rd, 2001. Any attempts to enforce unlawful acts and statutes upon me will be taken as an act of high treason, for which you will stand trial before a jury of the people at a later date. Anything you say or do against me will be used for your trial. I urge you to consider Nuremberg. I was just doing my job as no defense. Maxim in law, ignorance of the law is no excuse. Do you understand? And it's just that simple. We've got notices that business owners can put up, because a lot of businesses are being told that they have to close during these times. Mm-hmm. Nah. We all know that this is a hoax. We don't even need to entertain it. There is no government. So who are you to tell me to close my doors?
It's all part of the Sustainability Act of Agenda 21 2030. If you haven't looked into those, please.
Oh yes, it's in our treason evidence. I've got all the treason evidence printed off right from the 1666 Sesqui V Act all the way up to the PESCO document.
The PESCO document?
Yeah, we no longer have our militaries.
So who has the militaries in terms of who's controlling the military? Because martial law is ultimately what the treasonous regime is working to implement.
Oh, I know. And our Constitution actually prevents them from implementing martial law during peace times. So even that's high treason. But yeah, it basically hands over our military to the European Union and the United Nations. A lot of people don't realize that the European Union and the United Nations are one of the same. Mm-hmm. And we've got 1942 Berlin document that proves that it's the Nazi backup plan in case they didn't win the war militarily. That 1942 Berlin document was used almost verbatim in the 1992 Maastricht Treaty.
It's so overwhelming to see how wrong things are, and yet people are going along with it because so many people are so indebted. Canadians, I heard yesterday somebody said Canadians are 1/16 more than in debt than most other places. Like, we're so.
There's no such thing as debt.
Okay, speak more into that.
Well, it's a little common sense. The people have been duped. they are all listed as corporations.
Mhm.
What is a corporation's number one purpose?
Profit.
Exactly. They're making money hand over fist. So let's put this into perspective a little bit. Okay? 1666 Sesquiv Act lists you dead, lost at sea. There's the Sesquiv Trust attached to it. Stacked bank account with your name on it. Okay? Now you get a speeding ticket. Cop writes you a ticket. We'll say 125 bucks. Okay? That 125 bucks comes out of your Sesquiv Trust. Then you're expected to pay that 125 bucks to replace it into your Sesquiv Trust.
Mm-hmm.
So then they can slightly take it out again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just one ticket. Never mind your taxes. Never mind your utility bills.
Mm-hmm.
Never mind the fees that you're paying to insure your vehicle, register your vehicle, maintain your driver's license. They're making money hand over fist. Oh, we're in debt. We need to raise your taxes.
Yeah. So
there's no debt.
And
but they sure love giving themselves raises every year, don't they?
Yeah.
Whoop whoop. They might as well be playing Scrooge McDuck swimming in the shit. Oops, sorry, I better not swear.
It's okay. I don't think anyone has virgin ears, but
not with Trudeau in office.
Well, and then it becomes about attacking the individuals rather than the corporations. But instead of attacking anyone, it's really just about holding people accountable and understanding that not only will you be held accountable here, you will be held accountable in the after here too. And so really, this is about helping the souls who are alive right now, making choices to go against our nature and uphold.
Well, and that's what they're trying to do, right? They're trying to remove people from nature.
Yes, fully. Well, hence not being allowed to go even outside onto your porch in certain places.
Yeah, well, they want to remove us from nature 100%. They want to change us instinctually. That's why they're pumping hormones into children and pushing this LGBTQ agenda. They want children confused.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing is, they don't have any authority on land. That's why they have us listed lost at sea. They don't have any authority over men and women. That's why they're pushing the gender neutral. Oh, the 700 genders. You don't have 700 genders. There's only 2. 100 years from now, the archaeologists are going to dig us up and they're not going to say, oh, look, it's one of the 700 genders.
Right.
No, they're going to say it's male or female. And that's the thing. They want to just completely disconnect us from nature, period. Because our Constitution protects our unalienable birthrights. We have a right to food. We have a right to water. We have a right to shelter. We have a right to justice. We have a right to free speech. We have a right to protection. These are all things that can neither be given nor taken away. And yet they want to take them away and make us beg for them. No. The bears don't have to pay for their caves, do they? Mm-hmm. Or their food, or the claws that protect them. Mm-hmm. That's just natural. Mm-hmm. And people exist in nature, not government.
Yeah, we've just been socialized to raise our hand to ask for permission to go to the bathroom and to do basic things from our birth, really. Most people, and anybody that goes against that grain then gets put into their place, because society works with the tribe, and then the individual doesn't fit within the tribe. In order to belong to the tribe, the individual has to conform in order to fit into that space. And so when the individual doesn't, then the tribe says, get out. But what we're actually now doing is reversing that order to say that we're all in this, and the tribe is all of this. And so now it's time for us to say, instead of trying to push the free thinkers and the ones who are saying, this is not right, it hasn't been right for a long time, it needs to change, and it's not going to be changed by the ones that are in power. Because the ones that are in power have already sold out. Largely, the people that are at the top right now had to step on a few people in order to get there. And in that process of losing their humanity, they have sold us out so that we're on track to do so too, unless we actually act.
Well, and that's why we need to hold them accountable. Mm-hmm. See, they had to usurp the royal prerogative in order to usurp our courts, in order to usurp our constitution, in order to usurp our sovereignty. Because that's the key here. Sovereignty is what holds the power. And that is why Parliament is trying to say, oh, we're sovereign. That's like your toaster trying to tell you it's your mother. Mm-hmm. No. Mm-hmm. No, you're the toaster. Get back to burning my toast.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for all of the information today, Jacquie. And so we'll wrap up the episode of Peaceful Inner Warriors United podcast now and move over. And I know my friend Chantel, who introduced me to this. Hello, Chantel. I should have given you a warning. Sorry about that. Oh, you're on there. Perfect. I posted that we would open it to Q&A for those who were open and interested and keen to have questions answered. And I know Chantel has questions, and anyone else who may be watching this over on Facebook, if you are interested, we've got Brian over in Africa with Motivated Mindsets, and Brady is tuning in as well. I'm sure there are a few more. So anybody else that has questions, if you are wanting to jump over onto Zoom, or you're just wanting to post it into the comments, we've got some time where Jacquie has graciously said she is willing to give us an opportunity to ask those personalized questions to go deeper. So Chantel, would you like to be the first?
First off, I'd like to say I love you, and I can't believe how much work you do for all of us, because this must be absolutely insane to take on. Just, I get so overwhelmed even just reading the first post that you want us to read, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how do you do this? So much information.
Yeah, it is a lot to take on. See, that's the thing. All of this information used to be a core part of our education system. But again, you know, it's easier to remove your human rights if you don't know what they are. So they've removed it from our education system decades ago. So we've just been fed lies and indoctrination.
Absolutely.
So we got to kind of forget everything we've been taught and learn everything that we should have been taught.
Yeah. Which is going to take time, because there's a lot, honestly. It's hard to now come back and connect with yourself when you've been so disconnected.
Yes, for sure.
But my one question will be for like what other people have said to me, because I've had a lot of people that have said, oh, well, do we lose all of our rights to like the child tax benefits and stuff like that? So I don't know how to explain to them why not.
No, see, we have something called lawful excuse. Okay. And that means we have lawful excuse to break any act, statute, or legislation with impunity as long as we don't break common law. Do no harm, cause no loss, commit no fraud, and keep the peace. So we have to follow those 4 tenets of common law for our oaths to be valid. So when we need a service like child tax credit or unemployment insurance, whatever, going to see the doctor. Those are services and benefits that we need in order to maintain our happy, healthy existence.
Yeah.
So to deny ourselves those services, we'd be causing a harm and a loss to ourselves. That would be a violation of our oath. So we have lawful excuse to comply under duress to access the benefits and services that we need.
Okay.
I saw as well that there is where you can put a VC in front of your signature.
That's for extreme duress. If they're threatening violence or incarceration, then you would put VC for extreme duress. In a situation where you're accessing services, it would be a simple 3 dots before your signature.
And what do those 3 dots mean?
That means you have something more to say. It's basically saying, I object, but I'm under pressure of circumstance. I'm under duress, but I'm not under extreme duress.
Okay. That's good.
I even signed my passport under duress. They didn't even notice.
Oh, really?
Wow.
That they wouldn't notice.
So,
I guess people probably don't know what they're looking for, though, really.
Well, exactly right. They're not trained in this. They're just yes men,
Yeah.
following orders, right?
Yeah.
But yeah. So you can access the benefits and services you need. Just do it under duress. Maxim in law, any act done by me against my will is not my act. So the 3 dots are basically saying, I don't agree with this, but I need this service.
Okay, that's good to know. Good.
yeah. So would it be recommended then pretty much to do 3 dots before everything that we signed in order to make that part of?
No, not in front of everything you sign. Because, for example, sending the notices. I'm not under duress when I'm catching criminals in Parliament. I'm more than happy to sign those documents.
Mm-hmm. But like driver's license or passport, they're not.
Well, you
duress,
don't need a driver's license unless you're driving for a living. Mm-hmm. If you're a bus driver, a taxi driver, or a long-haul truck driver, then yeah, you need it. But just going from point A to point B, no, you don't even need one.
Interesting.
And once you've entered into that system, though, so those of us who actually did go through the process of getting our driver's license and actually stepping into their territory, then are technically bound to having the license because we agreed to play in their court, so to speak, from what I've been told.
Just don't renew it. Once it's up, it's up.
Okay.
And once it's up, then we can drive legally. Well, not
lawfully.
Lawfully. We can drive lawfully. Because we're only travelers. We're not doing it as a business. So that's the difference with maritime law, is that we're all born as travelers who were born to be free to travel this world. And so when we get our license, we're actually going through a professional process in order to participate in a corporate game
they're listing, they've got your birth certificate. Your birth certificate is what lists you as a corporation.
Mm-hmm.
And the date that you are registered, or the date that's registered on your birth certificate, is when the trust was then transferred over to them instead of us.
Well, it's always been, that's kind of when you became your corporate entity. Yeah. But the beautiful thing about the oath to Article 61 is it breaks all contracts, including that fraudulent birth contract.
Oh, good.
So a lot of people say, well, do I need to go and register my birth with the common law courts? No, you don't.
I did do that. Is that okay?
I wouldn't recommend using them at any other point. They've duped a lot of people into registering their birth with them. It's not necessary.
Okay.
I'd recommend staying away from them because they're not standing in the truth and law. They're not properly using the common law justice system. They are using unlawful acts and statutes and legislation.
Mm-hmm.
They're using legalese, and they're also supporting the fake King Gregory Hallett.
Right.
The throne remains vacant, and it will remain vacant until after the people have redress and go through a period of re-education before we have a constitutional convention of the people. And once we do go through that period of re-education and have a constitutional convention, then we'll be able to discuss whether or not we even want to continue with the monarchy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Definitely don't want to continue the way we have been.
No, well, that's the thing. They've duped us all the way around. They've got people thinking that the monarch is a bloodline or a birthright. No, it's a job title.
Yeah.
Nothing more. You got to be qualified for the job you're doing.
Yeah.
We're not meant to worship our employees.
No, we've got a culture where employees mean nothing and they're just cogs in the wheel, and if the cog isn't working or cooperating or has too much of their own mind, then that cog is replaced by the next cog that's also replaceable.
Exactly, and that includes the monarch.
Yep.
That's why she was dethroned. You're not doing your job. You breached your coronation oath. You're fired. And that's basically what this boils down to. And that's what people really need to understand. The entire government throughout the entire Commonwealth were fired on March 23rd, 2001. Wow. So why are they still going to work?
Yeah. How are they? Well, I don't understand then how this just keeps going.
It's because people keep going to vote. People keep buying into the illusion.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's an illusion.
Totally.
Well, thank you for breaking some of these illusions for those who had an opportunity to watch today, and for being willing to come on today. Chantal, do you have more?
Well, I'm just asking. I was going to ask, how do we get redress? Like, what has to happen in order for that to happen?
We need to restore the rule of law. That's what we need to do. We need to put juries back in the courthouse. That's redress.
Oh, okay. That's it. Okay. And so how do?
Yeah. Well, once we've got our common law justice system restored, that means juries in our courtrooms. That doesn't mean go and build a new courthouse and gather a common law assembly. No, we need our courts back, because every courtroom is already a common law jurisdiction.
Mm-hmm.
We already have jury nullification. We just need it back. And that means our courtrooms back.
Yeah. All right.
Because once there's juries in every single courtroom, then this mess will clean itself up.
So what do you say about like the things that they send out now to ask you to do jury duty? I literally just filled one out and sent it back. What do you say about that?
What we see today is a watered down version.
Okay.
It's not even, you can't even really call it a jury trial.
Okay.
It's an illusion, again, because a jury is supposed to vote by their conscience.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And in a common law court de jure, there is no judge. There's a convener who is also selected at random from the public.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
So every single member of the jury plus the convener is a member of the public. There is no such thing as judges and stuff like that. No. The convener is only there to make sure that the proceedings happen in the correct order.
That's crazy. Wow. How have they created a position that's not actually, legal?
Deception.
I know.
Deception and lies. Deception and lies.
Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And it all stems back to the Fabian Society in the 1800s. It's the secret societies. They crept their way into Parliament, and they've been pushing their agenda ever since.
Wow.
Well, I think that was 1886, I believe, when they first started pushing their way into Parliament. And it was 1910 when they actually got a Fabian prime minister. That's when they got into the prime minister's chair. And it's been selected ever since.
Yeah.
What is Fabian?
The Fabian Society was the first of their secret societies.
So before the Masonic Temple or the Freemasons?
They're all the same. They're all the same. It's all one. But that's when they were really public about it. They're all the same. The Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Committee, the Freemasons, they're all the same. The Fabian Society is one of the first of the founding societies. Their coat of arms, they had to change it because it was too obvious. Their coat of arms was initially the wolf in sheep's clothing. And if you look at the way the judicial system is run here in England, they wear the lamb's wool wigs.
Yes.
That's to represent the wolf in sheep's clothing of the Fabian Society.
That's crazy.
And the wolf in sheep's clothing story, for those that may not be familiar with it.
Put me on the spot with an old nursery rhyme. Thank you.
But because my understanding, like, I kind of see it, we're all wolves, but we've come to think of ourselves as sheep in a way, because it's like we all have the capacity.
No, the wolf in sheep's clothing is basically where they're hiding in amongst us. It's the essence of treason.
Right.
The Trojan horse.
Yes.
Yeah. So how would you suggest that we get more people to understand this? How do you help people to understand this? Like, I want to bring people, I've brought people into your group, but I don't think any one of them, including me, because I've been so confused. I still haven't taken the oath. And so, like, how do you suggest I help people to get going faster?
Well, the fact of the matter is we're running out of time.
No.
We never thought we'd see the day when they were building concentration camps in Canada. And let's face it, that's what they are. They're not internment camps, they're concentration camps.
Yeah.
And they're going up all over the place.
Yeah.
So, if people aren't scared, then they should be. So just the simple fact that we're running out of time, show them the evidence. Show them Agenda 21. Show them Agenda 2030. Show them the FCO 301048 that was hidden from us for 30 years.
The FC 103040?
The FCO 1048. 301048. FCO 301048. FCO stands for Foreign Commonwealth Office. It is the most damning piece of treason evidence we have. And it goes along with the Kilmer letter. The Edward Heath administration were fully aware that they were committing both high treason and sedition to bring us into the EEC in 1973. And there's so much treason and sedition in that document that they hid it from the public for 30 years.
Wow.
They hid the document itself. How does the government hide a document?
Well, they hide lots of documents.
Oh yeah, they hide lots of documents.
Yeah.
Well, I watched a 3-hour video of somebody that was in Parliament and basically went there and then started standing, and he was there as an investigator, as a reporter, and just basically interfering. I forget what he was doing specifically, but I watched 3 hours worth of him listing all of the names and calling people out and saying, if you want to sue me, do it. I'd be glad to, because if you try to sue me, then I'm going to bring all of the treasonous documents forward to show the fact that all of Canada's water is owned by the states, for instance, according to how the current government have.
It's all treason. It's all treason. They can't sell public services. They've privatized registries in Canada. That's high treason. They sold off Alberta Power to ATCO Energy. High treason.
Right.
They can't do that. They're not. See, the crown is a vessel that holds everything the people own. They're not allowed to sell public buildings. They're not allowed to sell crown land. They're not allowed to sell crown services.
Wow.
They're not allowed to get rid of public resources without the public's approval.
And the public would be represented by 25 jurors or barons.
The barons have already done their job. They're in service to the people. It's their job to babysit the monarch and make sure they're doing their job. And when the monarch is not fulfilling their constitutional duties to the people, that is when they invoke the security clause. They've done that. And so now it's up to the people. And that's why we all have a constitutional duty to stand under Article 61. And that's one of the things people need to wrap their heads around. Oh, well, I don't like what's going on. Okay, then do something about it. Take the oath and stand with the people.
I think a lot of them have just got fears about like being kicked out of the system somehow because they've, spoken up against the government. They think that they're not going to get access to healthcare.
We're not speaking up against the government. We are asserting the rule of law.
Yeah, okay. I'll remember that.
We're catching criminals because the police are not doing their jobs.
Yeah.
And that's another thing people can do. They can take the notice of obligation and the notice to compel performance, and they can be serving that on their local police stations. Every single police station in the UK has been put on notice. Canadians need to do their part and get caught up.
Yeah. Is there a lot in Canada
now that we're organizing the international push for redress? Because the call to action is going to come, and if Canada doesn't have the groundwork done, where are they going to be? Watching the rest of the Commonwealth save us and going, oh, gee, I should have done that.
Yeah. So do you know how much of Canada has been done and hasn't?
Alberta's doing pretty good these days. I'm definitely got plans for at least one, possibly 2 locations for the push for redress. I almost said what it was. No, the regime not know yet. But yeah, so it's just getting the groundwork done and being ready for the call to action. Okay. The sooner that's done, the better.
Yeah.
People are going to be scrambling right now, but I am going to do up a couple of forms that people can fill out, like jot forms, to see how much groundwork is done in each province or whatever.
Yeah.
I got to do one for Australia. I got to do one for the UK, etc. So.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for everything that you've been doing, because this is not something that you get paid to do.
No.
And that David got paid to do for the 20 years that he was advocating for this. And so I would love for you to just speak into David Robinson's role beyond the brief mention about how he was a personal mentor to you, and ask you to speak into the work that he started and he passed within the last month. And I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you. David has worked extensively for 20 years to fight for the people's sovereignty and to restore our common law justice system. He is a huge mentor to this movement. He founded Practical Lawful Dissent. All of the extensive knowledge that we have in our files and topics list all come from David. Every single document we do was beautifully done by David. He even gave us the new notices for businesses, the ones to compel the police to do their jobs. The 5 notice process is all done by him. He's even got a new document that parents can serve on their schools to protect their children.
Ooh.
So all of this has come from David. He spent years studying and researching and teaching us. So he's had a very big influence on this movement. He's done a lot of videos over the years and interviews for us. He showed us how to lobby the police. He showed us how Article 61 could be used to seize a town hall. He seized Glastonbury Town Hall using Article 61. And that was back in 2015. So, it is a great loss to everybody. All of humanity is feeling the weight of this. Even those who didn't know David, his legacy is something that we need to protect for future generations. Like I said, all of this information was removed from our education system decades ago, and David gave us that knowledge back. So we really need to protect it for future generations. He's an inspiration to us all. And he's the closest thing to a constitutional monarch we've seen since the 1550s and Elizabeth I.
Thank you, David. Thank you for the remembrance and also the reminder as to the fact that we're the ones that history books will be written about and what we choose to do now. And David is remembered because he has transitioned in order to pass the baton to us. And it is our role and responsibility now as sovereign beings ourselves to step up and do what's required in order to help people get back what is already ours and is being used and manipulated by people that do not have our best interest at heart. Though some of the people doing those things have good hearts, and it's not to say they're not bad, that they're not bad people. It's just they're making bad decisions based on the profits over people mentality of the world that we live in, and is what we came here to change. And there are people that have been the torchbearers who have been calling for justice and calling for responsibility and calling for change. And now it is us who are here. We're the players on the field.
Yeah. And we gotta fight like never before, because time is of the essence. Time is of the essence.
Sincerely. So anyone that is interested in actually exercising your power to be part of this change and movement, the first step is to swear the oath of the barons, and you get all of these documents in the units on the Facebook page. Practical Lawful Dissent, UK, Canada, and Commonwealth. Jacquie is one of the administrators and moderators, so until that platform is not available for us to be able to use, then you can go on to the other places, but it's all been laid out for us. We just have to actually do the work. And while that is an uncomfortable process, we have to understand that this is not about protecting the elderly, and this isn't even just about protecting the children or ourselves. This is about protecting humanity's future.
Exactly. Exactly. Because once they've robbed us of all of our rights and freedoms, it's going to be a lot harder to get them back. We still have a shot at this. Like my grandmother would say, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Yeah.
And I know when people come into the group and they want to learn, I understand that it takes time to learn, but at least get your oath and your lawful standing done as quickly as possible. People that wait until an issue arises, it causes them a lot more headache and work than necessary. Whereas if you've done your oath and your lawful standing and you're familiar with the process, then when the regime does something against you personally, you're not in panic mode. You're, oh, okay, I can deal with this. I know what to do. And you've only got like 2 processes to start instead of 5 or 6.
So in swearing the oath of the barons, we sign the document that's already available to be printed off, and then we need 3 witnesses, and then
yeah. Once you've printed the document, filled it in, and you've got 3 witnesses, you're under oath as soon as you've got your witnesses. But it is a document of intent. So the whole purpose of creating that document of intent is to prove your intent. So once we've filled it all in, we send a photocopy of it, registered mail, to the baron that we've selected. Most send to Lord Craigmile. Then you keep your postal receipt and your tracking number because you're sending it registered mail. You staple that to your original oath, and now you've got a completed document of intent. By sending it registered mail to the baron, your intent is undeniable. It's not like you just created the document and left it sitting on your kitchen table and did nothing with it, right? They could say, oh, wow, you didn't really mean to take the oath. You just did it to follow your friends. Whereas if you actually send it registered mail and you have that postal receipt and that tracking number, there's no denying your intent on that one.
And who is the baron? Where do we find the contact information for that baron?
Well, the one oath that we have has Lord Craigmile's name and address already on it to make it easier for people. But if they look in the topics list of the group under the barons, there's a list of all 25.
And these were the original 25 that came forward March 23rd, 2001 to petition to the crown that they were operating treasonously?
On February 7th of 2001, they petitioned the Queen to rectify the Treaty of Nice because it was granted royal assent when it shouldn't have. It was a treasonous document. But they've been doing this automatic royal assent thing since the 60s. So they usurped the royal prerogative. But, and you could read her answer. It's right in the invocation of Article 61. It's also in our notices that we send. But the Queen's response is basically an admission that treason has been committed. She said she didn't have the authority to deal with the issue. Well, you're the constitutional monarch. You most certainly do have the authority to deal with the issue. So it was basically an admission that the crown had been usurped. So she was constitutionally dethroned, and Article 61 became the only law in effect.
Amazing. So I feel like unless Chantal, if you have anything else you wanted to ask today.
Not that I can think of at the moment.
Okay, so what will, if you're happy to come together and do a summit where people kind of watched this message, and then we can actually come together, we'll do a lawfully organized summit in the near future where we can actually connect and have other people that are doing their part where they are, so that all of us together can actually turn this ship around. Because as much as we've been trained to think that we're just little minions and people that don't matter, we do. And we're not just minions. We're so much more. We are sovereign beings. We came here through people to be people and to bring up people potentially, or to look after the ones that are already here. And we have a responsibility to protect our future. And
yes, we certainly do.
It starts.
And that's the thing, right? Treason is a silent war. The government is sitting there behind closed doors with a stack of documents called acts and statutes, and they're signing them with a pen, signing away your rights and freedoms every day. Article 61 gives us our own stack of documents, and we can pick up our pens and get on the battlefield of this war. And that's what it is. It's a war. So Article 61 gives us a way to fight for our freedom. So let's do it. Let's take those oaths. Let's start sending those documents, get the groundwork done, and be ready for the call to action, because the international push for redress, it's coming soon.
Awesome. I'm ready. Let's do it.
I'm ready.
Yeah. All right. Well, and for those who are not feeling ready, plug in. Stay connected, know that you're supported. You've got people that have put in years of work in order to be able to guide and mentor us all through this process we're going through right now. So as overwhelming as it is to wake up to the illusion we've all been raised in, we can get through it together. Individually, we are not able to do anything. Together, we can do anything. So let us
together.
Most certainly. Thank you so much, Jacquie Phoenix, for your time today and all of the insights and clarifications. Anyone that has questions, please do comment, post, message me privately if you don't want your name attached to this, which we understand as well. And yet there's also the point where it comes to say that right now you're free and you have the choice to connect with people. And if you don't take action and you leave it up to the ones that are, we may not have enough people to actually do what's required, because you matter. So please understand, it's overwhelming, it's scary, and it's required. So thank you, and
thank you very much.
A phenomenal day.
You're welcome.
Everyone. Thank you, Jacquie.